reached out to me and was talking about this meetup and this, the conversations that go on in here, how amazing it is to meet other people, networking, and kind of the ideas that surround us. So she was just like, she told me you can talk about any topic that you like to present around cloud native and Kubernetes. So I was like, awesome. That's perfect. I was a little hesitant because I only had just one question on my response back, and I don't really know what cloud natives or Kubernetes was at the time. But that's okay. I did, what the responsible thing was to do when you don't know something. You simply, I said, that's perfect. I'll get that over to you. And that kind of tightened my time frame just a little bit. That's okay. It was self-inflicted, and I really appreciate her going back and forth with me on what that would look like. So I kind of took that time and the rest of that day just to go to think about how can I start this? How can I do something that's applicable to myself? What I need to do, and just kind of where do I even start? So I thought a good thing was to at least ask just kind of what is cloud native? Answer that question for myself first. Just kind of did a quick Google search, see what's up, see what's there, what kind of comes up. And I kind of got a plethora of answers. There's no one size fits all answer. That answer just depending on who you ask, and strict deadline. But that's okay. I figured it out and tried to just kind of watch a couple different videos and make my own consensus of what it might be just to move forward. This is just a base, so it's like it's okay if I have a summary. And just kind of what I collected was that running things from the cloud is not cloud native. That was kind of the first thing that came up, the start of all the videos that I watched, and I was like, okay, that I can make that connection. That seems to be the one thing we can agree on right now. And then the first thing that kind of came up is going to be 4 that I gathered. The first being the architecture of it all, and just kind of the way that I thought about my applications had to be different. Right now, I'm just writing things. It's just an application, and then I deploy it somewhere. But I actually had to think about it in parts, in its sections, that's back end and front end for my application, just because of the size of it. But just kind of having the idea and designing. And then the second being containerization. And this is kind of how do you package these different things? How do you package these up so that the services that they provide are independent of each other, so that when you're scaling and things like that is kind of independent, can be a lot more reliable. And then, of course, we have containers. We have to have a container management system. And of course, I'm just kind of going over these in concepts. The actual application of this will be later on. And container management was just kind of how you actually are able to do these things for me. And it was, how do you actually do these things of scalability, reliability? What does that actually do? And that's kind of where Kubernetes came in. And the last thing kind of just being CI and CD standards. Obviously, all of these won't be as surface level throughout this application just because of how big it is and the scalability, but this is just what I gathered throughout these things. And then I was able to move on and to actually get to starting my application. So now that I had my base done, I kind of had a good idea, better than the ones that I had before. I went over to, we kind of talked about AI a little bit around here, and I went over to ChatGPT and I typed this exact thing in. I said, can you build me a cloud native app? I don't really know what cloud native means, but I have a talk to give, and my dad's going to be there, and I really want him to know what I'm doing. So make it sound impressive and go. And then it did it, and that's going to be the end of the talk for today. But I did use AI though, but not in the case that you might think. I simply just asked it that I have to reframe my thinking of how applications work. So I just kind of asked it, what would that even look like? What would the steps even be? And because I know AI, all it does is just search and bring back a summary. That's exactly what I needed. So it came up with these 7 steps. I'm sure all of you in the room are a lot more knowledgeable than what's on the screen right now, but this is what I had. So if there's any debates or arguments, please leave that to yourself, because I can't vouch for any of this. But it said, build the application, containerize it with Docker, and then kind of continuing on into step 7, iterate, debug, and refine. I didn't take this as kind of a standardized step list, but I just wanted to see what came first, what came after, and just understand the order so that when I was going through and doing my searching, I was able to just get a lay of the land. So I was able to do the first step. Step 1, I knew how to do. I knew how to build an application. That was totally fine. And just kind of here, I made myself a lot easier not doing a live demo because I didn't want it to break in front of everybody. So we have a nice structured video here for you guys. And essentially, I wanted to build at least an application that reflects myself. Something small, nothing too crazy, because that wasn't the basis of my learning right now. For any of you that don't know, if I haven't got a chance to meet, I am a student at the University of Washington. a senior studying informatics and all these things. And I have, a couple of jobs, a social life, and of course, just studying as a full-time student. And things get heavy, things get hard. And I was like, what could be an idea to think of, especially as I'm ramping up to graduation? It's just like burnout is a really big thing, especially for our generation and with the time of my life that I'm in. So just having something where you press the start, kind of a study timer, it goes up, it increases. You can already see that it changes colors, kind of increasing that score until you reach burnout, which is turning red. And then when you're pressing break, it kind of diminishes that score at a little bit of a slower pace and kind of toggles between that until the end is finished. And we can see kind of turning red right here. And then it just goes into pressing break, as I did. Look at that lineup. And then it just kind of ends. So the next thing was like, okay, now that I have my application, I did step 1. I actually have to, integrate these things and move past and kind of break the cycle of deployment that I had. And what that meant was I started my deep dive, and this is actually where my first hurdle came in. And it wasn't even a technical one. But when I was exploring and kind of just searching up just a couple of the keywords that was brought up, I was noticing that there was just kind of things like learn Kubernetes in 5 minutes, learn Cloud Native in 5 minutes, and also learn Docker in 5 minutes. I have no idea why 5 minutes is the golden rule for just learning everything. But that was it was hard to actually get deeper and dive deeper into learning. I think there's a stigma with my generation, and I won't knock you for having it. There's definitely elements there of kind of the way we approach things and how we learn things and taking corners. Somebody maybe have used the initial AI prompt that I had up there and just called it a day. But when we actually are seeking out knowledge and actually trying to dive deeper, and we're kind of confronted with these things that are simply saying, if you just watch this video, you could stop learning right here. And it was interesting of how it's re-promoted, almost making it seem like taking shortcuts was the preferred method. But then when I was kind of learning these, and I still, I fell into the trap. I was like, awesome, 5 minutes. I only got a week. So I definitely watched all of them. But I kind of just noticed that it wasn't necessarily learning anything in 5 minutes, but it was, if you can repeat this 5 minute spiel to somebody else, you can convince them that you learned something in 5 minutes. But that's not what I wanted to do. I could have done that, and I could have just kind of thrown something together and shown up. You have no idea what I did at home. But actually, I did want to learn. That's something that I like doing, even if it's a topic I had nothing I know about. But it's okay. So I kind of moved past that, bypassed it, had to type in deep dive, extra long tutorials to get what I needed. And then the first step was Docker. And when I saw this probably on my left, my right, it's fine. Very familiar to you, at least I would hope so, as I'm supposed to be the most unknowledgeable one here. But when I see this, I see this left on the screen, which is a recipe. The exact recipe is neither here nor there, but the idea of it. Another thing about me outside of school is if we talk for any longer than 10 minutes, I will probably tell you about some dish that I've made, or even show you a picture of something I made in the last week. It's my solid point, it's my grounding point. Love this kitchen. And then when I go home, every time I go home, I cook all these things. I have almost like a menu of things that I can cook at this point. And before I leave, they always say, can you please write down a recipe so that we can recreate this when you're not here? So we can have all the materials, all the steps that we need to amplify this and recreate this. I have made 0 recipes at this time, and I hope they're actually eating while I'm away at college, because I haven't made anything. But that's okay. But I was able to kind of connect these dots and see what this is doing. So I was able to see how I read this as a recipe. I see that this is the image, to create, whether it's the front or the back end, or even more complex or different type of packaging systems. This is all the steps. This is all the ingredients, all the steps you need. If you have this container, if you have this recipe, you can recreate this dish or recreate this image. So I was like, okay, I feel confident. Now, granted, there's only 20 lines of code, and I was feeling really, really excited about myself right now. I had just, did my first little Docker file. It was great. But my confidence went down very quickly because the next step was Kubernetes. But that's okay. I saw all these things very similar to how it was, and I knew not to fall for those 5-minute videos. I knew I had to dive deeper and had to kind of approach this a different way. And this is kind of introducing how AI is used, but for learning and not for reproducing. When I had to do this, I started with the code by itself. So I had my files, I had my containers, and I saw what I needed to do to move forward. So I would find the tutorials that were actually longer than 5 minutes and go through them. And what they had the steps to what I needed to recreate and being able to edit those to match my file. And it took me about I was like an hour and a half to get through a 15-minute video, and not because it was difficult or it was badly explained, but because I paused it, looked at the line. Do I understand this line? I don't. And then I went into a tool, and then I was able to recreate that and ask what is going on. And we went back and forth until I understood it. And then we repeated that step until we finished with the code. Again, nothing too complex, something very simple, just one for my front and one for my back end. And I kind of were able to come up with a couple more conclusions to this. One being the container, so that was just kind of Docker and what that is. Now that you have that, we're good to go. So it's almost like the ingredients are like a lunchbox. If anybody's ever done HelloFresh around here, as a chef, I don't really promote that. But if you do, it was just kind of the same thing. If you have this box, you have everything you need to do, and it's recreatable and shippable. And then I had, second step was the pods and deployment. So having these things, so what is the orchestrator of this? Kubernetes being that guiding system. So when, having pods, and there's multiple pods in those, there are multiple containers in those pods, but typically there was one, at least in my low level application. So what is that thing that's actually making it scalable, making it reliable for other people? So just having that orchestrator there. Then services, when I was kind of understanding what this does, how pods were, their purposes, they died a lot. And I was like, this sounds awful. Why would I ever want to do this ever again? This seems extremely unreliable. But then I learned about services, so it's okay. So I was able to add that on top, and it was saying something that was a stable IP address, a stable DNS, so that even though there's literal chaos going on underneath the service, there was at least this one stable point that could be accessed. And then the fourth thing, just kind of being ingress and incorporating that, so that how does the actual request, HTTP request, get to the service and get all the way down to be able to fulfill the code. So that's what I got from it. And I know this is a lot more complex. Even just looking at all the stickers over there, I realized that, oh my God, I haven't even, I don't even know about 95% about what's going on over there. But this is all I needed to do to move forward. And that's really kind of what I was doing right now. I gave myself 2 weeks. And like I said, on top of all the other things that I had. So there was a point where I did have to move on. So then I did that. It was great. And it's kind of a little bullet point, deployment, how many and how they stay alive. Services, how traffic reliably reaches them. Ingress, how the outside world gets it. So I was like, okay, cool. We're good to go. So the next step for what it said I should be doing was adding a cron job in there. Now in hindsight, that was absolutely unnecessary. It did nothing. But you know what? Okay, I said, well, I'll be honest, chat said I had to do it, so I'm assuming that this is just the next step. So I tried it, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really necessary. But you know what? I went for it anyway, and I'm still actually glad I did. So what I did with the base before, and I added to it. And this was higher, and the width was slower. Very something simple, but almost having like this night mode attached to it, just that you're going to get closer to burnout when it's later in the day. And very simple accessing in there. But when I was looking at this and thought about it, I was like, do I have to make an image and re-push that and kind of swap out my images each time? It wasn't making any sense to me. But when I was going through it, in another example of somebody else on the internet, kind of adding this in and seeing how the files manipulated and talk to each other, how you can go in and simply say, run this command and the same. It was helpful to connect that and be very holistic for me. So, like I said, very, very unnecessary, but I would do it again if I had to. Then we move on, and my next step in my little line in my 7 phases was EKS. And then, I've deployed things before, and I know that there's sometimes a little bit of a cost association with that. So before I move forward, I just did a quick search. And then this came up. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I am a college student, an 18-year-old college student for that matter. And all the numbers on this page were wildly out of my tax bracket. Now, could I have dived deeper a little more, maybe found some student licenses or something? Did I? Not at all. I just said, I'm just going to keep moving and move it other direction. So rephrase that. And actually with DigitalOcean now. This is what I used to use. I heard of this once before. My dad used it on something. I don't know what it was. So I knew it was probably credible if he was telling me about it. So I felt comfortable enough moving forward. However, this is kind of where my second hurdle, I'm going to be really honest with you guys, that this was definitely a turning for learning. This was the first time I pivoted from my 7-stage plan, if you want to call it. I had to make an adjustment. It was step 6. I was almost done. This talk is in 5 minutes, and I just kind of need to hurry up and finish this. So I was like, listen, I think I did enough. I call myself pretty good at knowing a little bit what cloud is. I'm just going to call it a day. So I just said, I opened up chat and I said, listen, almost done. I have all these files. I had to switch from EKS because it's really expensive and now I'm in DigitalOcean. Can you please just tell me what's going on and what I need to do? So it just kind of, it said perfect, as it always does. It'll never tell you if it's wrong. And it just kind of went in and just told me all that I had to put in and it was going to work perfectly. And that loop for hours. And I blessed the hearts of my friends that were there just watching me yell at my computer. And I apologize for that. But it was just command after command. I had an error. I didn't know what the error was. I added it back in and then I repeated that process. And probably at this point, I probably downloaded a lot of viruses on my computer. For all I know, like it generally could have told me to put anything in and I would have added it in. But at the point where I knew I needed to stop was that when it told me this is what I needed to do. I needed to go to the Apple Store. So, all right, it's time to be done. I completely just, I said, this is getting completely to the point where I needed to just stop and wait until I was ready to learn. I had to be reflective. And could I have maybe gone on this path and got there eventually? Potentially. But I had to kind of realize why I was doing this. Yes, I have to be up here in front of you guys and I'm very grateful for it. But this was also just a personal learning tool. Do I plan to do any of this in the future? Who knows? But I wanted to keep to my morals and actually know that this is what I wanted to do. So I deleted that droplet and I just completely start the next day. It was okay. I was able to get through it, do what I usually do, type in the long version of things, go through it, take hours to do a 15-minute video and keep going back. And then I was able to kind of integrate everything. And the best part, which I don't care how long I'm in development for, but seeing it on a different device will always be my favorite thing ever. It just feels a little bit more official when it's on my phone. I don't know why. Now, of course, the link is just my public IP address on my virtual machine. Oh, okay. She's gone. Yep. It might be that virus that I downloaded, guys. Honestly. That's okay. Be fine. Try this again. There we go. There we go. We're back. See? We're totally fine. There you go. Yes, round of applause for him fixing the TV. That's very important. It's okay, guys. We're almost done, so maybe it was just a little bit tired. I do have lots of tabs open, and all my VS Code is still open because I'm afraid of breaking it. So that's likely what happened. But I had it there, and then honestly, I was done. I could be done right here. But I wanted to go back and look at all my code again. I actually printed them out and set them all on a table just to see how everything connected. Because yes, I was doing everything by themselves and not in parallel of each other. So I was really focused on Kubernetes when I was doing it. I was really focused on Docker when I was doing it. But I need to zoom out. I'm somebody that needs to know the why before knowing the how. So I kind of went back and did all this. And then just so you guys know, like I'm presenting this all in a very, fairly clean manner, if I will say. But about 2-3 days ago, this was this whiteboard that I had trying to figure all of this out. And this is one of 10 pictures of different variations of me kind of going through this and understanding what's going on, what's talking to what, and just honestly, what the hell is going on? So I have that there. And then now that I had that, I was able to be like, okay, I went back through it. I know what I'm doing. So I was able to turn this, what I had, into this. And it looks the exact same. It was just really, really difficult for me to tackle because when I was first learning how to code, very young, it was a lot of things that I was doing was very visual. And I think it's actually really good. When you're teaching younger people, I will say, how to code something reactive is very important. So, change this, the background color changes. So a lot of HTML and CSS is just really fun. But I think even like the first time it was helping Elsa get to the other side of the frozen castle. So that was kind of what I was doing. So like I said, very, very visual. So to go from that to something that's, to me, invisible, especially if you don't know what's going on and the purposes that it does, was definitely a really big shift. And I think that was also kind of my last and third hurdle of doing that. It's just, I'm waiting for something to happen to prove that I'm doing good. And it just wasn't going to happen. I kept changing and goes, exactly. I can't work with that. I don't know what to do with that. So I'm just kind of hoping that this is good. Everything runs. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I think I'm still having to build up my faith in what it is. And what I happen, but what I do know is that I understand that there's pieces in development and things underneath the layers and allowing things to be, like I said, more scalable, more reliable. kill burnout application ever known to man, having all, but as a step of, if you small scale, I feel better. What to say? I don't know. The last kind of piece of advice before I wrap